Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF is Space Hulk? Well, don't confuse it for Space Hulk or Space Hulk Vengeance of the Blood Angels, and certainly don't confuse it for Space Crusade, because that would be a little silly. Space Hulk is the 2013 iteration of the classic Games Workshop board game. And by, of course, classic Games Workshop board game, I mean something they reprinted like about a year ago, put out about 7 copies of the bloody thing, then never supported ever again, because Games Workshop hates you if you play anything other than Fantasy 40k or Lord of the Bloody Rings. I'm sorry, I'm getting out a little bit of pent-up frustration here. I used to be a big Necromunda player. I used to be a big Gorka Morka player. Fie on me for deciding not to play the main stuff. Oh no. Games Workshop has historically not supported its specialist games all that well. Lately, they've actually put out a lot of rule sets that you can play, assuming that you have the figures for it, but good luck getting anything whatsoever, and they've just basically abandoned all of those games. Some of them they've chosen to turn into computer games, as you might imagine. Warhammer Quest was a recent addition to the iOS library, and surprisingly good, actually. It's a very, very good version of it. And then you've got Blood Bowl, the Cyanide version. There's 3 of those, and they're pretty janky. And Blood Bowl 2 is on its way, which we hope will be slightly less janky. And now we have Space Hulk by Full Control, a developer that hasn't really released a good PC game ever. So that did bring a little bit of consternation from a lot of the old school fans of this game. However, what it does appear to be is a very faithful recreation of that board game. So that unfortunately means it comes along warts and all in that aspect. And you'll see why when we get into the game. But if you were looking for something that's an interpretation of Space Hulk, which I think would probably have been a much better idea, you're not going to get that. What you are going to get is a $30 version of the board game on computer. Simple as that. Let's see if it's worthwhile. We'll just start with the options menu. Separate sliders for everything, including music. And you might be thinking, yeah, let's get some good 40k regal music going in as we purge the Xenos filth. No. There's music in the menus, and there's music when you either win or lose, and that's about it. There's no actual game music, which is very disappointing, and certainly does not do anything to enhance the atmosphere. Video options. That's a lot of presets. What do these sound like? Yes, they do in fact sound like Unity presets. As far as I can tell, this is running in the Unity engine. AA on or off, I mean, it doesn't really make a lot of difference anyway in this case. So there's your video options, fairly limited. Gameplay options. You can customize your skins for your Gene Stealers if you happen to pre-order the game. It's available as Day 1 DLC as well for about $2. You can turn the Space Marine timer on or off. I don't know why you would do that, at least not in the single player. I assume that just kind of limits your time, which is strange. Again, I don't know why you would have that on. I mean, we could turn it on just to see what it does. And then you got shoulder camera, which is this kind of nice but utterly useless little thing in the corner, which I assume is designed to ape the older Space Hulk games, whereby you were able to see various camera views in sort of first person, which was pretty neat. There's no point in this being here, it serves no practical purpose whatsoever, but it's kind of nice nonetheless. Battlelog, very useful, shows you your dice rolls, so it explains exactly how you succeeded or failed. And then you've got action camera. This will give you this kind of neat little behind-the-shoulder or cinematic little sweep in. Think Fallout 3 style, only not quite as good. And that's kind of about it, as far as I know. There's your inputs. You don't really need any of these keys at all, but you can use them if you so desire. For some reason, language options are locked. Why, I do not know. In the librarium, you can mess around with your banner. You've got to unlock tons of stuff to even make that worthwhile. So I don't really know what the point in that is, honestly. I want to mess around with this. Yeah. That's about it. Now you'll be able to... I can customize my poll. Thank God. There we go. This is completely and totally useless. Shop is just a link to the DLC, so there's nothing you can really buy in-game. And then you've got the manual, which is a rule book for Space Hulk, which might be worth reading. The tutorial for the game is pretty good at explaining a lot of things, although the nuances of the game may be lost on you if you don't at least have a look at the manual. Very similar to the way that Blood Bowl worked. You also have multiplayer online or offline, as well as hot seats. So someone gets to play as the Gene Stealers, someone gets to play as the Space Marines, and you can play, as far as I'm aware, you can play all of the missions from the Sin of Damnation campaign, which was the original campaign for the Space Hulk board game, if I recall correctly. Based on something that sounds ridiculous, yeah? It really does. If you know anything about the 40k lore, the idea of the entire Blood Angels chapter, all 1,000 of them, going onto one Space Hulk and then getting pretty much obliterated, leaving only 50 Marines left, is absurd. It really is. And it sounded like these guys at Full Control just made it up. But no, it is actually canon, because sometimes the 40k lore is goddamn bonkers and makes no logical sense. This being one of them, the Sin of Damnation, very much so. Good God. Oh, jeez. Anyway, yeah, so Space Hulk pops up again, you are sent in to do everything, and you might recognize some of these names if you played the original board game, because all of these missions are from the original board game. I did say it was a faithful recreation of it, I wasn't kidding. It's pretty much that, and there is nothing else there. So, we should go on to Suicide Mission. You might wonder, well, why haven't you played the other ones yet? Well, I failed this mission twice and then had the game lock up on me twice the other times, which has not been fun, to say the least. And since it is the board game, it's fairly easy to assess what this game is. So what I want to try and do for you is explain the board game, explain its adaptation, as well as look at the technical problems that this version of the game has, and try to have a bit of a discussion as to whether or not it's a good idea to just straight port a board game over to PC for $30 and expect people to buy it. Well, we shall give it a shot, shall we not? Suicide Mission, here we go. For the Emperor, and so forth. Unfortunately, we are unable to execute multiple simultaneous, devastating defensive deep strikes. This is, in fact, a Space Hulk. It does mention going in on the boarding torpedoes, but in fact, as you deploy your squad, it's abundantly clear that what actually happens is you just teleport. Hell, even the corpses disappear in teleportation as well, so I assume they just want to get their armor back, which is reasonable, considering Terminator Armor and the 40k lore is extremely rare, and is generally only used in the direst of circumstances. Also known as Tactical Dreadnought Armor, for those of you who don't like the Terminator name, and I don't necessarily blame you, because it is a tad silly. Alright, we shall open the door and make our way in. So this is a turn-based strategy game. The objective of this particular mission is to flame this room, yeah? Basically destroy the control something or other, cogitator, whatever the hell you want to call it, techno-arcana sorcery bollocks, and do so with a heavy flamer, which you only have one of, and it's only got 6 shots, so you better be bloody well careful with it, and also survive the Gene Stealers that are going to be coming at you from all directions. These are kind of Gene Stealer spawn points, so-called blips, and they will appear on your kind of radar, and you won't know exactly how many Gene Stealers are coming at you. It can be anywhere between 1 and 3 per blip, and you'll only figure it out when you get visual contact, and then they will try and murder your face. So hopefully you'll be able to stop that. Now you might think, it's going to be very, very difficult to murder 5 Terminators. Nope, no it isn't. Gene Stealers are really good at it. They're in fact incredibly good at it. Embarrassingly so. It's to the point where I don't even know why they even send Terminators in the first place. Because Terminator Armor is apparently completely useless against Gene Stealer claws, so it seems like a horrible waste of time. But such is the Codex Astartes, ladies and gents, and we shall abide by it in the name of our stupid Primarch. Alright. Can you tell I don't like the Blood Angels? No, they've never been my thing. Alright, so the interface for this game is fairly simple, and it allows you to move your waddling little Terminators around the place by simply clicking on where you want to go. If you wish to turn your Terminator, which does take an action point, then you can sort of twist them around, either by holding down the mouse button and sort of twisting it in the direction you want to go, or by utilizing just a command as you move there. Each Terminator has 4 action points they can use. Each action takes various numbers of points, as you might imagine, and you also have what are called command points in the corner, which you'll gain between 1 and 6 of every turn, based on a random dice roll. These command points can be used to move Terminators more than they usually could, and to invest points in actions that they otherwise could not do. But it is very random, because the game's a dick like that. That's just the way that the board game worked. That's the way that a lot of 40k or just Warhammer stuff in general works. It's very dice-based, and such is the way of things, so deal with it or get out. Now, as you can see, the characters do like to waddle around a little bit. Let's just have a look at the options for a second and see. I thought I put the Space Marine timer on, but apparently not. We can turn shoulder camera on, because that's kind of neat to have a look at. There we go. So you can see in the corner there's a shoulder camera, and that's going to show you basically what the Terminators are seeing, which is, it's a neat feature, yeah? It serves no practical purpose whatsoever, but it's nice, cool, and atmospheric, and I like the fact that it's there. Unfortunately, it does have a problem. In fact, the entire bloody game has a problem. This is not just the shoulder camera causing these issues. Oh no. This game runs terribly, and I have tried various settings, and it certainly is not graphically advanced enough to justify it. No, it is not. It drops frame rate pretty significantly as you move out, and when the Gene Stealers start spawning, the frame rate gets progressively worse the more Gene Stealer bodies there are on the floor, which in the body count can get pretty damn high. So this is not ideal. We're going to end the turn. And some Gene Stealers will probably come in our general direction, as you can see. These are blips. We don't know how many Gene Stealers are here. It could be one, could be three. I mean, there could be an entire room full of Gene Stealers there, or there could just be three of them. We just don't know. But we will be setting up in order to try and make sure that they don't murder us horribly. Now, you have various kinds of Terminators available. You've got the guy with a heavy flamer. You've also got your sergeant, who has a power sword, which makes him a little bit more effective in close combat, so he's slightly less likely to get his face murdered, although he's still probably going to get his face murdered, such is the way of Space Hulk. Even having a power sword is no guarantee of being able to win in close combat, even if you're properly prepared, on guard, and ready to rock and roll. It won't help you anywhere near as much as you would hope. Now, I've got to be careful with this heavy flamer, because he is the best weapon I've got in the squad, but he does have limited ammo. Everyone else has got unlimited and can kind of rock and roll, and of course the objective of this mission is to burn up that room, so I want to keep my heavy flamer sort of towards the front, protected by my sergeant, because there are four spawn points there, so there's going to be a lot of Gene Stealers all of a sudden, and that's the only area of effect weapon that I actually have. So far, the frame rate's kind of okay. It's at about 40, and it's going to drop a lot lower. Now, obviously, in a turn-based game, that doesn't really matter that much. It's more of a kind of quality of life thing, as far as I'm concerned. One, the game shouldn't be running that low in frame rate anyway, and two, it makes the controls clunkier. Now, the lower your frame rate is, the more difficult it is to control a game. In the case of something like Space Hulk, it's not that important, but it shouldn't be running this badly, especially not on a system like mine. So that is unacceptably bad. There are a number of other technical problems and just general jank that you're going to discover as we go. And I think what I want to do is kind of turn them around. I'm sort of lining up my Terminators in a firing squad here, because I have no idea how many Gene Stealers are going to come through this corridor. I'm just going to mow the bastards down. And before we do that, I'm going to blow up the door so that I will be able to see more of them. Yeah, three guys on Overwatch, they're probably going to destroy that. We can't really use all of our guys there, because if we do, then my Terminators at the front are probably going to get murdered as well. But for the moment, that's a lot of Gene Stealers. Alright, so as you can see, they can quite happily clip through doors. You are going to be seeing production value that is not particularly high, let me put it that way. I mean, graphically it's not that impressive, but what I will give them credit for is that it seems like they've based the graphics on the original tiles that came with the Space Hulk game, so in reality, it looks very 40K-esque, yeah? It's pretty close to the kind of thing that I would expect from a Warhammer title. The main problem is that the game is just decidedly low rent. We've got bullets that just fly through walls for no apparent reason, animations that frequently decouple and just don't work all that well. The melee animations just suck in general, so they're not particularly entertaining. And then you've also got particularly poor sound assets. Bad voice acting, really lame bolter sounds, movement sounds, the kind of clanking on the steel floors just does not sound good at all. And that's really not what I was hoping for, honestly, from a $30 title. A long time ago, we had a term called budgetware, and budget games that were very much a thing, and you could kind of excuse games for not being amazing based on the fact that, oh, hey, it's a budget title, it's not too shabby. I don't think you can really do that anymore. We seem to have entered an era where even $10 to $15 titles have decent fidelity, and this title just doesn't. I mean, there's some really weird stuff. I've had Space Marines clipping through Space Marines. I've had Gene Stealers clipping through Gene Stealers, and the same set of animations every time you shoot one of the bloody things down is rather disappointing, to say the least. Alright. Now, we killed a good amount of Gene Stealers there, maybe 3 or 4. There could be 3 more in that room, and of course, there could be more spawning. So I'm going to leave 2 Space Marines here. They're kind of backed into a corner, but that's going to give them a good arc of fire, I think. And they should have line of sight. The game doesn't really make a lot of effort to show you what line of sight is, which is kind of annoying, I've got to say, especially if you happen to be new to Space Hulk. If you've played Space Hulk before, the board game, then you're probably familiar with the line of sight rules. It's kind of similar to the problems that I had with... I don't know what the hell's the name of it. Yeah, you know the name of it. Blood Bowl, of course, Blood Bowl. And I had a problem with that at times, simply because it was a game that didn't really do a particularly good job of giving people feedback, of showing people all the information they needed. And it sort of said, you know what, you should know this anyway. And that's not okay for a video game, yeah? The reason why we play video game versions of this stuff, aside from the fact that the bloody Space Hulk game is $100 plus in order to get a copy of it now, is we want the computer to handle those rules. There's a great example of bullets clipping through walls in random directions, which is definitely not ideal. We want the computer to be able to handle those rules and show us those kind of things, yeah? I want to know, I don't have a measuring stick. I can't look from a first-person perspective, really. I mean, this doesn't count. This doesn't give you any useful information to tell exactly what my arc of fire is here and what my line of sight is. So it would be nice if the game actually bloody showed me, and it doesn't. It just flat out refuses to do that, which sucks. It needs to be giving more feedback than that. Miss. Yeah, welcome to Space Hulk. Where somehow it's possible to miss a Gene Stealer in a 3-foot wide corridor. This is fairly standard Space Hulk nonsense. Alright. Okay, we're gonna set him on Overwatch. I think I might even... can I burn command? No, I actually don't have enough command points. That was a mistake. I might get... Depends how many Gene Stealers come down this corridor. We might end up getting overwhelmed here. Alright, well, there's a Gene Stealer right in my face, and as you can see, the power sword's ignited, and that's nice. You know, the fact that the power weapons ignite when there's a Gene Stealer close is really awesome. And every now and again, you see some stuff that's had a lot of work put into it. Like, the actual armor of the Terminators looks really good. There's good iconography on it. It seems like the actual Terminator suits look slightly different each time. They haven't just copy and pasted them, which is kind of good. And then you've got the lame stuff, like the friggin' light. I mean, that might as well just have been done in MS Paint, which is not so good. The texture quality not being all that great either. I just made a horrible mistake. I'm going to undo that. Thankfully, there's an undo button. Good lord. That would have been pretty bad. He would have turned in the wrong direction there. Okay, so we have no blips there. We know that there's someone coming from that direction. I want to move out the way to make sure my flamethrower guy can get over there, and then I can flame that corridor and hopefully kill him. So we are going to move into range, as risky as that seems. That was a miss. God, I should have gone with the past one. I could go at him with the power sword, but it is a little risky. It does let the... As far as I'm aware, it lets him take a swing at me, but let me do it just to demonstrate how it actually works. So we're going to select the power sword, and we're going to take a swing at him. And that was successful. Good. Well, that's always nice to see. You'll notice in the dice roll here, Gene Stealers get 3 dice rolls. The guy with the power sword gets 2, a guy with the power fist gets 1. So it's... yeah, it's not in your favor, let's be honest, and you really shouldn't be doing that. Shooting at them is generally a better idea when you have the option. In the meantime, since someone could be coming around this direction, I think we'll overwatch with the last 2 points that he has there. I can move up my guy from behind. There's a couple of other problems that I've got with it, and then we can get on to the idea of porting a board game, I suppose, and just talk a little bit about that. I don't want to go that far. That seems like a bad idea. Let's actually undo that. Thank you very much. Could even just flame that corridor. Gene Stealers are pretty dumb. They'll probably move through it anyway. Although, admittedly, that's going to restrict me from going up there for a turn, but it might not be the worst idea I've ever had. Yeah, we can do that. As you can see, the flamethrower is a nice area denial weapon there. Unfortunately, there was a door, which I think I've managed to break, by the looks of it, by setting it on fire. That might not have been the best of ideas. What bothers me about the game, probably the most, is just how slow the animations are. And as a result, you've got to wait for the clunky animations to finish before you actually get a chance to move on to the next turn. There's no option in the game to speed them up or skip them entirely, which means that missions take way longer than they should, and it can get pretty frustrating. Thankfully, you can move multiple Terminators simultaneously. If you couldn't, then that would be awful, but at least you can do that. At least you can do that. But there's no excuse for that, really. This kind of stuff shouldn't be taking longer than the board game. If I can move something instantly in the board game, I should be able to move something instantly here as well. If you're going to port a board game like that, then at least kind of do it properly. That would be good. I'm going to move him forward 1, and then I'm going to put him on Overwatch. As you can see, you can stamp on a corpse to get rid of it. I think that was actually a little programming trick in order to get rid of the corpses, because if they start to pile up, the frame rate starts to crash, so it's not ideal. Alright, let's move up in this direction, see what we can do here. Gotta watch out not to lose my flamer, or I'll instantly lose the mission. It's very, very unforgiving. Expect to lose a lot in this game. So, let's kind of tackle the elephant in the room, and that's the fact that this is a port of the board game. Because that has 2 effects, yeah? The first effect is the idea that it's okay to be a bit janky, because as long as it's faithful to the board game, then that's all you really need. The second thing you could say about it... Gene Steele... I don't think there's a Gene Steele around here. No, we've got no information on that, so I think we'll just open that door. The second way of looking at it is that it is not okay to do that, because when you get a port of a board game to a computer or a console, you would expect the production values to be high. You'd expect them to kind of bring it to life, as it were. There is... Ah, damn it. Did I just completely forgot about them, didn't I? Did it not give me a warning? I really did. I am such a... Man, the game didn't notify me. That's a real surprise. I mean, you could just say, oh, well, it's your fault, and it kind of is, but I'm pretty sure I could have opened fire with all of those guys. I just completely forgot. That's really odd. And those guys had action points, right? Yeah, they did. I'm sure they had action points. And the game didn't say... Warning, there may be Space Marines that you haven't moved yet. That would be, that's pretty standard. Even XCOM does stuff like that. That's a pretty damn unforgiving game. That seems like a huge oversight to me. You could blame me being bad all you damn well please, but seriously? They could have at least had the decency to say, all of your Terminators have not used their action points yet. Are you sure you wish to? That would have been a good idea, I think. That would have been a pretty damn good idea. But no. Huh. I'm not cool with that. I'm going to take a turn. I'm going to set up Overwatch here. I think we should be able to beat this mission regardless. My concern is that I'm about to get bum rushed from behind, which is definitely not going to help. I might even move forward. That'll give me like 1 turn of breathing space. Or I could turn around and open fire, of course. And just Overwatch in that direction. I don't even know. Have I got enough points to do that? I don't... Yeah, I do. Lorenzo can take 2 steps around and then Overwatch. Alright. He's just going to open fire straight away because he's a maniac like that. I could actually maybe kill 2 of these guys in the process. And since they're stationary, it's probably a better idea that I do. Get better dice rolls against that, I think. Maybe, maybe not. Well, we got 1 of them. That's not too bad. Hopefully the damn bolter doesn't jam. Alright. Well... They're going to come at me, but I think they're just out of range. They can move 6 spaces, so that's what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I should be alright, so. And then I could turn this guy around and create a field of fire. Yeah, we should be able to beat this mission this time around, which is always good. Anyway, back to the point. If you're going to port a board game over, and you're going to say, hey, pay us a bunch of money for this, then I would like to see stuff like animations not being terrible and bullets flying through walls and... the inability to customize animations, and just little quality of life improvements like, well, here's how the line of sight actually works, and this is clearly how much line of sight you've got, versus this whole, you better guess, and, oh yeah, you forgot to move one of your Terminators, maybe you should do that. That would be nice. I haven't played Space Hulk in a while. It's very, very easy to forget that stuff. It's really weird that they wouldn't do that. Alright. Well, we're about to be surrounded from all sides. This is very much indeed a suicide mission. Thankfully, I have a full set of command points, so I think we're going to be able to get away with this. Let's not screw it up first, though. No, that would be a... No, not that. I'll turn this direction. I think I can just flame this, and then that is probably GG. Oh, I've got to get through the door first. Oh, that's a pain in the ass, isn't it? All right. Do I have enough command points? I think it's going to be next turn when this happens, quite frankly. I don't think we're going to make it. And that's assuming that these Gene Stealers don't round the corner and murder my guy with a flamethrower. Do I have enough action points? I think the best move is to move forward, turn around, and then fire a flamethrower shot. And that's going to block this area off so they can't get at me, and then I can fire my last shot next turn. My other Terminators are most likely going to die. That's just the way of it, folks. Welcome to being a Terminator on a Space Hulk. It's a pretty nasty occupation. The hazard pay sucks. There we go. And now we're going to flame this entire area. That will hopefully protect his back, as well as kill at least one of the Gene Stealers there. Maybe even another one. You can see that it's fairly tactical. I don't know. I'm in two minds. I think that if all you wanted was, hey, Space Hulk the board game, then cool. That's exactly what they've given you. They have given you just that. But to argue that it's, you know, they put a lot of time and effort into it, that there was a lot of good budget being put into it, I really heartily disagree. Honestly, I really do. It seems like this was rushed. It seems like there's a bunch of just minor problems that all kind of get together to tell me, you know what, this is low budget, and yet they have the audacity to charge $30 for it. You know, if this game was $10, then it would be a lot easier to overlook this stuff. But $30, almost as much as a full-price release, with no extras whatsoever, don't think so. I don't think so. This is going to be okay for some people, but if you wanted just to get into Space Hulk and have never played it before, I just can't see a good reason to recommend this to you. I really can't. It's just not good enough. I'm sorry, it isn't. Free versions of this game were made, and they were as good, if not better. The production values of this game are not high enough to justify the price tag, in my honest opinion. Well, ignore the fact, of course, those free versions often had to rename themselves due to Games Workshop wanting to sue the crap out of them. It is a similar problem to Blood Bowl, but at least Blood Bowl had additional content. They put some additional new rule sets in there, they put this kind of full campaign mode in, they put a bunch of different things like cups and skirmishes, and their online league system was extremely robust. Yeah, so there's a good reason to play Cyanide Blood Bowl, even if Cyanide Blood Bowl has a bunch of its own problems, which it most assuredly does. But this version, the full control version of Space Hulk, I couldn't recommend this to anyone that didn't already desperately just want to play Space Hulk. Yeah? That's all you want to do? Well, you can. I mean, but do you really want to pay $30 for the privilege? God, I don't know. I really don't know. It's so hard to recommend just because they've pretty much phoned in a lot of it. And that's kind of unfortunate. I hoped maybe that they would put a little bit more tender loving care into play when it came to Space Hulk. But it's a venerated franchise, you know? It's something that I hope that they would focus a little bit more on and really amp that production value up. And more to the point, do we really want just a computerized version of the board game instead of a new interpretation of what Space Hulk was? Because I'm going to be honest, Space Hulk Vengeance of the Blood Angels, for its time, was extremely innovative. Yeah, it was a tactical first-person shooter. It had this pause element to it, and it also had this strategy element to it. You could move them around. It was actually fairly faithful. And I thought that would, for the time, that was really impressive. Yeah, I really thought that it was. This is not really what I wanted, I don't think. Yeah? I think it's easy to look back on Space Hulk and say, yeah, I loved that as a board game, but board games are board games. And when you're paying for a board game, you pay for the physical aspect of it, you pay for the ability to roll dice and move nicely crafted figurines around, place down heavy card tiles, and of course play against a friend. And all that dice rolling, all that action there is a lot more fun in that respect. But here, it really isn't. Like, it's not good enough, in my opinion, to justify the price tag. But it might be, you know, for some people it might be. For me, no. I really am not into it, honestly. I don't think it's good enough to justify its price tag. When they fix some of those bugs, when they fix some of that jank, when they fix fairly major bugs like the crashes that occur, the performance problems, as well as the fact that sometimes during the Gene Stealer turn it just freezes up and refuses to go on. When they fix all of that, then I could say, yeah, maybe for $10 to $15, but for $30, no, I'm sorry. I don't think so. And the game just randomly alt-tabbed and crashed. How very appropriate. My name's been TotalBiscuit. Take a look at Space Hulk. It's currently available on Steam for $30, your regional equivalent. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.